The topic tonight is building student digital skills, teaching Zoom functions. And we will talk, first we'll do some introductions, then we'll go over Zoom settings, Zoom functions that are helpful for teachers, and then helping your student use various Zoom functions. My name is Nicole Mannino Johnson. I am the Special Projects Manager at Literacy Pittsburgh. The three areas that I oversee are our Digital Skills Grant, our Citizenship Program, and our Employee Training Services. My email is here. If you have questions about any of these areas or about today's talk, please don't hesitate to contact me. And I'd love to hear about you all. So if you're comfortable sharing, would you mind saying how long you've been a tutor and whether you are using Zoom with your students? Hi, Mona.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Good. Do you want me to start?
Sure.
Okay. My name is Mona Calici. I just had my 1-year anniversary with Literacy Pittsburgh. I wasn't even aware it was a year already. It went so quickly. I've had 5 students so far. Have used Zoom pretty much exclusively, except for when we had some tech issues and we had to do a FaceTime. But typically, so I have my own Zoom account, so I don't have to log in again after 45 minutes. So I think tonight's going to be good. I think I'm going to learn some things that I don't know already, and I appreciate you doing this.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. And congrats on your 1 year. You've helped a lot of students in that year.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know several of your students have become citizens. So
Yes.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Catherine, how long have you been a tutor?
Okay, I had my training 2 years ago, and I worked in the classroom just 1 week before it shut down. And then I went on Zoom with a couple different instructors. I'm actually a tutor assistant.
Oh, great.
And so I end up, helping out a number of the tutors. And right now I'm tutoring a gal on Monday night, and she's doing well. She's in that early childhood education program. And I'm helping Caitlin with a gal with math. And then I'll get involved with the fast track program again.
That's awesome.
I've been enjoying it. I live in the South Hills, and I think I'll just stay. I do use Zoom and would like to do some other things with it.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
And David, would you mind sharing about how long have you been a tutor and are you utilizing Zoom?
Well, I've been a tutor with Literacy Pittsburgh for only about 4 months. Many years ago, I lived in the Middle East in the country of Lebanon, and I taught English as a second language there to Arabic speakers. And I am retired, live in Florida in the winters. I'm a Pittsburgher, but live in Florida in the winters. I'm in Florida now. So I've been using exclusively Zoom with 2 adult sisters who are Syrian immigrants. They've been here 5 years, so they're very good, very astute students. We're on workbook number 5. But it's been interesting because I'm sometimes in Florida, I'm sometimes in Pittsburgh. One of the Syrian sisters was traveling in Syria, so we've been Zooming around the world.
Oh, wow.
Things are going very well. Really appreciate it. Use Zoom exclusively, but I certainly have more to learn about Zoom and eager to hear some of the things that you have to say, and I'll have a couple questions along the way.
Sounds great. Yeah, I love that Zoom kind of eliminates that location restriction. I had some students joining class from Iran and other places, Colombia, and it's really nice that they can continue even though they're traveling. So, all right. And let's see. Hi, Paulette. And Zarky. And I see a Bennett and a Keith and someone named Galaxy Tab S2. So who would like to share next? Tell us a little about your tutoring experience. Go
I'll
ahead.
share a little bit. So I've actually just started with literacy a couple of months ago. I have one student now, but I've also been involved in another program, tutoring from here to Israel. I tutor an Israeli Arab and an Ethiopian Israeli in Israel, and that obviously is on Zoom. So I'm doing fairly well with it, but a few more tricks would be good. I've also taught some OSHA courses, which are on Zoom, and that can get a little tricky also.
Yeah.
So any hints you have will be appreciated. The biggest problem with teaching overseas is the time difference, getting
Yeah.
that straight.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks so much for sharing. All right. So let's start with talking about Zoom settings. So some tips for the Zoom settings is to review and adjust the settings before your meeting starts. Once you change settings, it changes it for all your meetings. And so it's just in effect for all the meetings. If you change it again, then it'll change it for all the meetings in the future after that. So if you're comfortable with your settings and you find the ones you like, you really only have to do it one time and then you're done. So it's something you just take a little time to do, and we're going to review some of the settings that are useful for teaching and learning. So first I'm going to show you some slides, and then I'm going to screen share my account so we can kind of see what it looks like as you're logging in. But once you've logged into Zoom, you see on the left hand, there's a menu bar, and you want to click on that settings menu item. So the settings we're going to look at today are chat settings, meeting control toolbar, screen sharing, annotation, and whiteboard settings. Another thing to keep in mind, once you've kind of set up your account with the settings you like, maybe you try something and it doesn't work the way you thought it was, you can always go back and change it back and kind of fine tune what works best for you and your students and your situation. Okay, so once we click on the in-meeting settings, the ones that we're talking about today are located in both the basic and the advanced in-meeting section of settings. Zoom has a whole lot of functions that you can really kind of go down some rabbit holes. So just going to focus on the ones that are most effective for teaching. Okay, before we go to this part, I'm going to share my screen. And we're going to look at Zoom settings. Okay, so I'm going to click on the right on my account. And as I showed in that slide, on the left-hand side, there's a menu bar, and I'm going to click on settings. Once I do that, we're going to see a lot of different settings here. And you can, this right here is like a mini menu inside the settings section. I'm going to click next on in meeting. We're going to look at in meeting basic and in meeting advanced settings. So first, when I click on in meeting basic. Okay. Let's do that again. This first one, I usually ignore the third-party endpoint thing. I don't really understand it, and I've never had to use it. The second one, chat, I typically will enable chat. So it's something that is probably defaulted to be enabled. If there's ever a situation where you don't want chat, you can disable it. And then within that chat, you can allow participants to chat with everyone. Let's say you have a group, or if you're just one-on-one, the setting doesn't really matter. They're only going to be chatting with you. But if you did have a small group, you can change this setting for them to chat with everyone and anyone, everyone, the host, or no one. Okay. I typically have this open, like in our classes, we're all adults and there's no reason, in my opinion, to restrict. But in some settings, you may want to restrict this, like if it's a webinar or that kind of thing. But for these tutoring things, it's typically best to have it open. And then allowing users to save the chats. I don't know if people really want to do this, but if you're doing some work in the chat, it could be a good option to enable. You can enable this for just yourself, the host, or you can enable this for everybody. I just click on everybody. That way, if a participant really wants to save the chat, they have that option. And private chat is a setting that allows, if you have more than 2 participants, allows people to send private chats to one another or directly to the host. One thing to note, though, that the host can see all these chats later if they're saving the chats. So while it is private during the meeting, the host can always see all the chat that has taken place. Okay. And another setting I like to click is allowing files to be sent via chat. This way, if you wanted to share a PDF, a Word document, you would be able to do so. You can restrict it to certain file types. You can have a maximum file size. I've never had a need to restrict anything, but if that makes sense for your situation, you could do that. Just in general, allowing the files is a good practice in a teaching situation to more easily share. And here's one that's interesting. Always show meeting control toolbar. Okay. I don't know if you've noticed, but when you're hosting a meeting, sometimes the toolbar disappears and you have to kind of shake your mouse to get it back up. If you click on this, it will stay there. It's not going to disappear. Kind of like to do that because it can drive you a little crazy when you're teaching and trying to share your screen and the thing disappears. So that's one I like. This next one is interesting. Show Zoom windows during your screen share. Most of the time when you're sharing your screen, you don't see the Zoom meeting. Why would you possibly want to do this? If you're trying to assist a student on where things are located in Zoom, this might be a good option to check. Then they could see what you're doing as you're doing it. This is defaulted to not be on. If you're not instructing specifically on how to use Zoom, it might be a little much. I typically keep this off unless it's a situation where I'm specifically instructing someone on how to utilize the settings in Zoom. Screen sharing. Right now I'm sharing my screen. I can allow myself only to share screens. I can allow all participants to share screens, or I can disable screen sharing altogether. Okay. With teaching, I think screen sharing is a big thing that we use, and I would recommend you keep this on. And if you're trying to build your student skills, I would recommend you say all participants can share their screens. Once you have clicked all participants, this next question, who can start sharing when someone else is sharing? So if you want to eliminate people accidentally overtaking screen share, you can only allow the host to start a new share. That way you have to stop your share before someone else can begin to share their screen. And once you've checked all these little boxes, you want to click save. Any questions about this particular section? Has anyone already experimented with these settings?
I've used the sharing in class, more the whiteboard.
Mhm.
I've never really pulled up anything, to share.
Mhm.
I've also seen the chat whenever I'm working with one of the tutors.
Mhm.
He uses it a lot to, he puts something in there like a document that we're to be working on or whatever. He'll
Yeah.
put that in the chat.
Mhm.
One of the things I'm looking forward to learning and know virtually nothing about is annotation.
Mhm.
So what is really the, I know you'll be getting into annotation later,
Yeah.
but, and maybe you can answer this later, but I'm interested in what the difference is between annotating, which I understand allows the student to put some things on the screen, and allowing the student to screen share. I'm presuming they're two different things, but
Yeah.
they seem similar to me.
So with screen sharing, like right now, I'm showing you my web browser. Okay. Now, if I want to annotate, I'm going to circle something on my screen. So drawing on the screen is annotating. Just showing you what I'm doing on my computer is screen sharing.
But what my question is, isn't there, that's what the host is doing, but
Yes.
how can I allow my student to annotate, and can I allow my student to screen share at the same
Yes.
time that I'm being the host? And what is the difference between the two? Again, you might want to save that till annotation.
Yep. So for the screen sharing part, if you want your student to be able to screen share, it's this setting right here. Who can share all participants? Okay, you want to make sure that that is set ahead of time. Then your student will have the option to screen share. Okay. Our next setting is annotation. So first of all, you want it to be on. Okay. And it's blue when it's on. You can allow saving of shared screens with annotations. And in this case, what it will do is you can download an image of what you've done. And so if you're working on something and the student has put some student work there, might be a nice thing to do so they don't have to take a picture of the screen. They can just save it as an image. The second box says only the user who is sharing can annotate. If I check this, then only the person who's doing the screen sharing can also annotate. In this case, me, I'm the host, I'm sharing my screen. If I check that box, only I could do the annotation.
So
In-
may I follow with a question?
Mhm.
So again, I'm trying to get clarity on this. Do I understand that both screen sharing, that once the host is screen sharing, you in terms of teaching, I would and whether I'm screen sharing alone or wanting to annotate, I'm going to Whiteboard. Is that the correct thing? So I would go to Whiteboard.
Not
And when I'm-
necessarily, no. Whiteboard is another form of screen share. So Whiteboard is one way that you can utilize annotate. Right now, I'm not sharing a whiteboard. I'm sharing a web browser. You can share a browser. You can share a Word document. You can share a PowerPoint presentation. On all of the things that we're sharing, if annotate is activated, we can draw on top of whatever it is that's being shared, whether it be a whiteboard, a Word document, a web browser, or whatever else it is that you're sharing.
Okay, I do understand. That's helpful clarification. Now, specifically, however, if I'm on a whiteboard
Mhm.
and I, as the host, have gone to a whiteboard, and in settings, if I set up that my student can if I understand that I can set it up for my student to annotate on the
Mhm.
whiteboard, so they could draw on the whiteboard. Now, does drawing also mean typing text?
Yes.
Okay,
Draw is one of the functions. Typing text is another function. And I'll show you what those are in a moment after we finish looking at the settings.
yes,
Um,
I understand
yep.
what the functions are. I was just, the word draw kind of throws me off.
Okay.
But so, I mean, it also includes typing text as well as
Yes.
so-called drawing.
Yep. Drawing is one function of annotation. Typing text is another function of it.
Got it.
Mhm. Okay. So I would recommend, if you want your students to be able to share, that you only click on allow saving of shared screens with annotations. Do not click only the user who is sharing can annotate. Okay. Leave that one unchecked. Next is whiteboard. This is defaulted to be on. Make sure it's on. That way you can share a whiteboard. You can allow saving of whiteboard. You can auto save the whiteboard content. Remote control. This is probably something you won't use unless your student is really struggling with how to use Zoom. If you do allow remote control, you can allow other people to control the content. So if I allowed this in this meeting, you could forward my slides or sorry, this is different. I misspoke a bit. I was thinking about remote access. Remote control is a little separate. So remote control means that another person could forward my slides or control the content that I was sharing. Okay. Most of the time, you don't really want this. Slide control. Here's another similar thing. If you wanted someone else to be able to forward your slides while you were talking, you could have this checked. Okay. Feedback, there's little emojis that people can click. I don't know if this is useful to anybody. In teaching, not necessarily, unless you had a big group. All right. Another few settings, allowing users to change their name when joining a meeting. This is a good thing to have so that your student can put their real name there. Because as you can see, or maybe you can't see, I'm not sure what your view is right now. I'm logged in as MotoG Stylus on my phone. And sometimes this happens with I teach a big class and I'll have iPhone, Moto Stylus, iPad, and I don't know who's there. So allowing students to change their name is helpful so that they can change it to their actual name, and you can change it as well as the host. All right. Advanced meeting settings. If you have a meeting with multiple students, you may wish to allow breakout rooms. If it's just one-on-one, it's unnecessary. But if you do want to do breakout rooms, you would have to turn that on. Okay. And the next one is remote support. This is the one I was thinking about before. If you put this on, then you can help with settings and where to find things on somebody else's device. This is where if your student was really struggling and you wanted to see what they were doing, you could allow this. Probably not going to get into that. Virtual backgrounds, I usually allow them. Some people like them for privacy, particularly we're all in our homes, and sometimes it's nice to be able to block your dirty laundry or whatever it is that's behind you. Video filters is another feature you can have or not have. It's just kind of a fun thing. You can put a mustache on, or sometimes people like to have fun with that. These other things are really kind of unnecessary. All right. And that's it for setting up the ones that we're talking about for today. So I've looked at in-meeting basic settings where we can do chat settings. We can do sharing files. We can allow our meeting control toolbar to be there all the time. We can allow screen sharing for just the host or for all participants. Okay. We can allow annotation. We can allow whiteboard sharing. We can allow meeting reactions, allow users to change their name, rename themselves, and we can allow breakout rooms, virtual backgrounds, video filters. Okay. All right. So now that we've reviewed some of the settings that you can play around with, let's explore what these functions do and how you might use them. Okay, so we'll talk a bit about chat, screen sharing, annotation, and the whiteboard. So if you enable it, you can share files in chat. If you have homework, it's a digital copy of homework, you could share that right in the chat. You could ask student questions and have them answer. When I teach citizenship, part of that is writing sentences. Often my students will type it in the chat. You can share links to websites you would like your students to go to. What are some ways you've used chat?
The one tutor I work with, he will send links so that they can access it, and then they can do their own scrolling and do the exercise at their own pace.
Mm-hmm.
But it also ends up being if a student wants to ask a question, I've noticed they'll put that question in the chat.
Mhm.
And that'll be like usually to myself and the tutor. Sometimes to everyone too, you know?
Yep. Mhm. Yeah, particularly when you have a group of students, sometimes it is more comfortable for people to type their questions in the chat rather than saying it out loud and feeling like they're interrupting.
Mhm.
Or in some cases, I've had students joining while they're doing other things. And so maybe they have a noisy background or something like that where chat can be helpful. Okay. Has anyone shared files in the chat? Okay, let's see here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a file with you all so you can see what that looks like. Just a moment. Okay, so I've sent you a PDF in the chat. You should be able to open it and view it. It's just a sample worksheet I might use in citizenship. Was anyone able to open that? Okay, so that's something you can do if you enable file sharing ahead of time. So you could share a worksheet with a student. A student could share something with you.
I'm opening a list of files.
A list of files.
It's
Yeah, that's what
asking
I
us,
have too.
it's asking us where we want it saved.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, actually, I think these are my files. Should I hit cancel?
I'm assuming so. So in the chat next to the document, there should be 3 little dots. You can open the file or you can find it in a folder. If you click on open the file, you should be able to just open the file.
Got the same list again.
You
Um,
get,
I have a chat that's sent to everyone,
mhm.
and there's 3 little dots. When I hover over the 3 little dots, it says save chat.
Oh, so you're not seeing a PDF document.
I do see a PDF document, and when I click on it, I get a whole list of files, the top of which says save as.
Okay, so the 3 little dots I'm talking about are the ones next to the PDF, not at the bottom. There should be 3 little dots right next to the PDF where you can open the file.
Not on mine.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't think on mine either.
okay,
No,
okay, Mona, yours opened. Okay. Here's the tricky thing about these sort of things. Everybody's devices works a little bit differently. So it's possible you have some security settings on your computers that is asking you to choose to download it or to save it, and asking you to choose between different things.
Yes, mine is indicating as I hover over it, it says click to download. And when I click, I get a whole series of files where I presume I could download, on which I could download it. But I think they're your files, not my files.
Interesting, because I only shared 1 file, so I'm not sure.
Oh,
All right. Would anyone like to try sharing a file?
mm.
So to do this, what you would do is click on the chat and it should say to everyone, and there's a little picture of a document. And you click on that and it shows you folders on your computer. And you could choose a picture or a document to share.
I just saved mine to my desktop and then
Okay,
and then on the file that you sent in the chat, it turned the PDF emoji, it made it a green and white check mark.
okay.
Then as soon as it did that, I could read what you sent.
So it sounds like you have some security software that was checking it out to make sure it was an okay file. When you had the green check mark, it said it's okay to open it.
Right. I just saved it to my desktop to where it
Mhm,
would be easy to find.
mhm. Okay, and Mona shared a file. Okay, I see what you're talking about. When I click on her file, it asked me to save as. Okay, so I'm gonna save it onto my desktop. And then I should be able to open it. Okay, so that worked for me. So thank you, Keith. That's what was happening. I had a different view as a host than you did as a participant. So in order to view the file that I sent, you first have to save it somewhere. So you click it and you save it. You can save it in downloads. You could save it in whatever folder you wanted to save it. And then as Keith said, the little icon will get a green check mark, meaning you can now open it within the chat.
It worked the exact same way with the flag file she sent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. David, did that work for you?
I think I'm following it. Yes, this is
Okay.
actually new to me to click on the little icon, so that's helpful.
Okay.
The file icon.
Then also within the chat, next to the little file icon, there's emojis that you can share. So I can send a little panda bear to everybody. And there's other things that you could share there. So in the chat, if you have these things enabled in your settings ahead of time, you can share files, you can share emojis, or you can type things. Okay. And it was good that we practiced because now we know that the participant needs to save the file that you send before they can open it. Okay. Another thing you can do is chat is put a link to a quiz or a poll, a video for students to watch. So it can have all sorts of useful functions. Okay, screen sharing. So when we're sharing our screen, like right now, I'm sharing my screen and I'm sharing a PowerPoint presentation. So you can share a document of some type, like a presentation, a Word document, a PDF, any document you have on your computer, you can share. You can share websites or videos. If you're planning to share a website that has sound or a video that has sound, there's some things you have to do first. I'm going to stop sharing. Now, this is not my particular Zoom account, so I'm not sure if screen sharing is enabled for everybody. So first I have to check here.
Oh.
Okay. All right. So when you are screen sharing, you click screen share. It's on the menu bar and it's usually green. And then a whole host of options pops up. depending on what you have on your computer. So, for example, when I click screen share, here's some options. So I see I can share my actual screen. So that's exactly what I'm seeing on my computer, except for the Zoom meeting. You're not going to see the Zoom meeting unless you have that setting activated. I can do the whiteboard. I could share a website. I could share a presentation. These are all things that are open on my computer right now. So that's why they're showing up in screen share. If I want to share a video, I want to click share sound. So you check that box. Then you would, let's say the video was on a web browser. So you would click on the web browser that you wanted to share. When you click on what you want to share, a blue frame goes around it. So right now, the screen has a blue frame on it. If I were to click on this web browser, the blue frame would go around that. And I'm wanting to share a video, so I want to make sure I check that share sound box. And then I'm going to click the blue share button in the right-hand corner. There's another box there that says optimize for video clip. Don't check this. I don't know the purpose of this. It sounds like it would be a really great thing to share if you're sharing a video. But every time I've done this, it distorts the video and anything else you share for the rest of your presentation, and the students can't see what I'm doing. So my advice, never check optimize for video clip. Only check share sound.
I have a question when you're ready.
Sure.
With share screen and my students, I have placed side by side a video or an audio on one portion of my screen, and the text of it on the other side of the machine, the other side of what they can view.
Okay.
And what I find is, if I click to begin the audio or video, the text disappears. It goes behind. And if I click on the text, then the opportunity to start the video or the audio leaves the screen. It goes behind. Is there a way that I can keep both of them on at the same time so that I can be playing and stopping the audio and video without losing the actual text on the screen?
So I would try sharing this blue box here that you see, screen. That way they can see everything that's on your screen. So if you have multiple windows open, they'll see them all.
There's no problem with them seeing it. They can see it and I can see it. They can see both the text and the audio that I'm about to play or the video that I'm about to play. But when I click on one of them, like I start the video, the text leaves so that they can't follow the text, and vice versa. If I click on the text, then I can't click to start and stop the video.
So when you're sharing your whole screen and that's what's happening? Or are you sharing a window in a browser?
Well, I click, I've already have the text up before I even open the meeting. Yeah. And I already have the video up before I even open the meeting. Okay. So I hit share screen. Okay. And then I click on one of them and I shrink it and move it to one half the screen. And then I click on the other and shrink it and move it to the other half of the screen. So both I as the host and the student can see both screens at the same time. But as soon as I click on the video to start it, the script goes away.
Okay. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, instead of clicking on like two different things, a video and a document with the words, click on this screen. Okay. The one that says screen,
Okay.
and you check your sound as well. And then you
Uh-huh.
click share. When you do that, you're not sharing one thing, you're sharing everything that you're seeing on your screen.
I see.
Then when you separate it, they should still see both things at the same time.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah, but when, like, for example, if I click PowerPoint, you're only going to see the PowerPoint. You're not going to see all the other things I have. So when you're clicking between two different things, it's going back and forth between those particular documents or
Yes.
video. If you do the whole screen, you're going to see everything at the same time.
So do I put up the text and the, let's say, the video, and then in the sequence check the screen box, or do I?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. So have them both open.
And
then
then, so that's
share
the-
your screen, click screen, make sure the sound button is checked, and then click share.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Mhm. And Paulette, did you have a question?
Just a comment. I was driving and I just came in the house and got off my phone and got on my laptop. Just a note that things shared in the chat are only for the people who were in the room at the time. And so to remind people that if somebody comes in the meeting at 5:10 and you shared a file at 5:05, they won't see that. They only see things in the
Okay.
chat after they've logged into the room. They don't,
Oh.
they can't scroll up and see things that happened in that room before they logged into that room.
Thank you, Paulette. Yeah, that's a great point.
Mhm.
Yep.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
If I end up, from time to time, I work on word problems. If I had a document that I was going to share that had the words on it, if I do annotation, am I able to work the problem out on that sheet?
So I think so, if I understand what you're asking. So it's a Word document that you're sharing?
Yeah, it would be a Word document, and then
Okay.
I would have it, it would end up showing up like your squares are. And
Yeah.
then I would highlight it, and then I would share it.
Okay.
And then is it annotation that I use to write out the problem?
So are you wanting to edit the Word document, like type into the Word document to show how to do the problem?
Being into it, I would be writing. Or
You want to
draw.
write on top of it? Yes,
About.
then you can use annotate. Yes.
Okay, great.
Mhm. Yep.
Great.
And then that'll be like you're drawing on top of it, basically, or writing on top of it.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yes.
Yep.
Okay, because I was thinking that would be great if I could come up with a chart, you know, the graph
Mhm.
or slope or whatever, you know, then that would be wonderful. Okay.
Yep. Mhm.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay. Any other questions about sharing your screen? All right. Okay. So annotate. Annotation, and you're going to see here this annotation toolbar. So we can see the different functions of annotation. There is mouse, select, text, draw, stamp, spotlight, eraser, format, undo, redo, clear, and save. All right. The ones that I most frequently use are text and draw and erase. Right now, on your Zoom menu, do you see an annotate option?
I just see the annotation screen and then there were 3 red circles, that you made, and then 4 bullet points.
So what I'm asking is on your menu where like you can click chat or share, do you see an option for annotate?
No,
No?
no. Participants chat, share screen, record, and reactions.
Okay. Is there a more button?
Not on mine.
Not on yours. Okay.
And depending on your version, I have a newer version. I have apps.
You have apps? Okay. Okay. So I am not sure, because this is not my Zoom account, if annotate is activated for you guys right now. When I click on more, it says I can disable annotation for others. So it seems like you should be able to annotate. I'm trying to figure out where that is on your menu. On my menu, it's next to share. Okay.
And again,
So-
we can see the annotation menu on your screen, but it doesn't allow us to click on annotation.
Okay, so on your menu, you don't have an annotate feature.
No,
No.
again, it depends on the version, I guess, but I have mute, stop video, participants, chat, share screen, record, and reactions.
Okay. Okay. So I'll just kind of demonstrate then what the different things do. So if I'm using text, a text box will appear and I can type something. Hello. Okay. If I want to change the color or anything, I'm going to highlight that text. And I'm going to click on the format button. I can change it to red. I can change it to yellow. I can make the size larger or smaller. Okay. So you can type and then you can change the format, meaning the color, the width of the lines, and the font size. One thing to note, if you are changing the format, it applies to everything that you type. Right, text.
I'd like to mention that I'm working on a tablet right now, and there is a little pen on the side. And when you click on the pen, touch the pen, it brings up that menu for annotating.
Okay, so can you touch text or draw and draw something on my screen?
Yes, let's see. Red circle.
Wow.
Absolutely. Okay, so he's a participant. He can draw something on my screen. He could type something on my screen. Okay,
Text. Except I don't have a keyboard to type.
you don't have a keyboard, so yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things too, like Chromebooks don't allow annotate. So if you're on a Chromebook, annotate won't show up as a feature. So this is where it gets a little tricky, is when everybody's using a different kind of device. not only are the menus in different places, but some features are disabled on certain devices.
I can type.
Does anybody see a pencil on their menu, or I'm trying to think of where else it could be. There's
I
a
found
weird,
it.
you found one? Okay.
Okay, I think I might have the same version as David or anybody else. At the top of my screen, it's in green and it's in black writing. It says you are viewing, it's basically your name screen. Then there's a little section next to it that says view options.
Oh,
There it
It's
is.
a pull down menu. So you
Yeah.
just
Thank you.
There's
you
annotate.
annotate. There must be several of
Ah,
us with the same version.
yes, very helpful.
that's it.
I was just kind of playing around and I found it.
Yeah, thank you, because I was trying to remember. I feel like I've seen that before, but it's so different on every device that it's hard to keep track of.
I've never used that pull down before, but I just kind of noticed it and went, well, that's a
Okay,
pull down.
so, and the other thing too, I can see that Paulette just wrote hi. And so Keith just drew a little green thing.
Yes.
So as soon as you do it, your name kind of shows up for a moment and then it disappears. So David did the blue. So this is how you can get your participants to do it. So maybe on their device, it's on the menu bar.
Mhm.
Maybe if they're on a tablet, it's like a little pencil that you just tap, or maybe it's at the top, you are viewing and you click on that. Was it more options button?
It says view options.
View options.
And
Okay.
that's a drop down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
So
then a mini version of what your big one looks like
mhm.
pops up too. Now
Yeah.
the eraser, how does that work? Because I usually just clear, because I end up clearing the whole sheet.
Yep. So if you click on the eraser, you can erase a portion of something. So go ahead and try it. Try to erase.
Okay, I just erased.
Okay.
And then what do? Put it back up?
You'd have to retype it because once you erase it, it's gone.
But the eraser, do you replace it up to get rid of it?
You just click on something else.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, or the little red X that's on the side of the menu, the annotation menu. There's a little red X. If you click on that red X, it'll
Okay.
stop whatever feature you're using.
Okay, good.
Yep.
So for example, when I click clear, what it clears is only what I wrote.
Yes. If you're the host, it would clear everything.
Yeah.
But as a participant, it's just going to clear what you particularly wrote.
Yeah.
And go ahead and click on stamp and you can see what that is about. So it's just a couple check marks. You can do hearts.
Oh,
You can do question mark. I have no idea what you're talking about, teacher. Draw. So draw, you can do either that squiggly line where you kind of use your mouse and you draw whatever shape, or you could pick these other shapes. So I could draw an arrow using draw, or I could draw a nice neat circle, or these other options that are there, a square. So the freehand are the squiggly lines. The other things will kind of guide your shape to make it nice and neat looking.
And how about mouse? What does that do?
That's a great question. So do you see my mouse cursor right now?
Yes.
yes.
When I click on mouse, it allows you to see my mouse cursor. If I unclick it, can you see it now?
Yes, I can.
You
Mhm.
can. Okay, let me try to unclick it. Can you still see it?
Yes.
Okay, well then I really don't know.
Maybe you have to do on your end, maybe you have to clear.
That could be. Okay, clear. Oh, I cleared everybody's drawings.
And the mouse is gone too. No,
The
it's
mouse-
back.
It's back. Okay. Honestly, I really don't know. I've never really used that because every time I click it, I can't tell what's happening. And same with select, it's something that I haven't really used. So maybe if you figure out what they do, you could teach us. The biggest things that I use are the text, the draw, occasionally maybe the stamps, and then the clearing and the erasing. If you had students that were doing some good stuff on here and you're making a flow chart or whatever it was you're doing, they're doing some great math problems, you could click on the save button. And what it will do, it will save it as a PNG file, which is an image file, into a folder on your computer. And then you could save that student work. Or conversely, your students could do that and they could save their own work, or they could save whatever it is that you're demonstrating. Okay, and then Spotlight. So if I use Spotlight, there's a few options. So do you see like a little laser pointery kind of thing?
Mhm.
That's my laser pointer. So I clicked on Spotlight and the one that looks like a flashlight. That's what that looks like. So you can guide the eyes of your participants to what you want them to look at. I can also choose an arrow. And I can say, hey, look at this yellow square. Okay.
And you know, we don't have the spotlight option
Okay.
on ours.
This is a vanishing pen that I have. It could be like just the host, or it could be one of those things where it depends on which version you have. So as Zoom puts new features on, there's updates available, and they update different device types at different times. So it could depend on what kind of device you're using, what kind of operating system you're using, and how recently you've updated your version of Zoom. Okay, any questions about annotation? All right. And whiteboard. So the whiteboard is just like a whiteboard in a classroom in some ways, where you can use all those annotation functions on it. So you can draw, you can add text, you can add shapes, you can do the spotlight. Everything that we just did, it's just on a whiteboard rather than on top of my presentation. Sounds like some of you have already been using the whiteboard. Is there any questions about it or ideas on how to use the whiteboard?
I've
How
used
do
it
you
for
add
other
the
meetings.
shapes?
How would you use it in instruction? Give me some examples, because I've got a student that I tutor that I would like to do some interactive things with her, and it didn't occur to me to activate the whiteboard.
Okay, so what kind of, is it a GED student or an
Yes,
ESL student?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's say you're doing some, like, I don't know, reading comprehension or differences between words or synonyms. You know, I could have the whiteboard up here and I could say, okay, let's put the word easy up here. And now I can say, okay, why don't you tell me synonyms of the word easy, and go ahead and type them right on the whiteboard using your annotate feature. Okay, so you can click on annotate and text and then add words that are synonyms to the word easy.
And actually, that would be helpful for this particular student because she's a visual learner, and having that would be helpful. And then the ability to then save that, because I saved that last one as an image and it immediately opened the file location for me to save it. So, yeah.
Some other things that I have done would be like in the draw, if you're doing these circles, you could do a Venn diagram.
Mm.
Okay, so I can put one here, and then I can make another one and kind of move it. Okay, we can make a Venn diagram and then utilize that, and they could save it as an image.
Mhm.
Yep. So really anything you might do on a blackboard or a whiteboard in a classroom, you kind of imitate here. And if the students are able to annotate, then they can participate in it. Okay. Any questions about the whiteboard feature? Okay. So I realize that we're kind of going long, and I'm not sure how long these typically go. Is it usually 1 or 1.5 hours? There is a little more that we can talk about, or we can call it a night and can let you all get back to your evening. So please let me know your preference.
Well, I actually have another Zoom meeting at 8 o'clock. I'm going to say goodbye.
Good night.
Thank you. It was very helpful, though.
All right. All right, so let's just quickly go over some of these things. So Zoom functions for students. We kind of already talked about this, but here's some things to consider. Note your student's device type, and we just saw why. It looks different on every kind of device. So just ask your student, hey, are you using an iPad? Are you using a computer? Is it a Chromebook? And that can be helpful in trying to figure out where things are and what features they may or may not have. If possible, like if your student is logging in on a phone, log into Zoom on your phone so you can see what they see. It looks different on a phone. You're using your finger to swipe. There is annotate on the phone. It's similar to the iPad or the tablets. You can teach the Zoom terminology explicitly, like annotate, breakout room, screen share, and teach them how to do it. And I would just recommend just practice one skill at a time, because it's a lot to get used to. So maybe one class you're doing annotate, they get good at that. Next class you have them share their screen or whatever it is, unless they're, some of my students are better at Zoom than I am, and they could blow us all away. So if you have a student that's in that category, then you don't have to do one thing at a time. Some things that you might want to help your students do is change their name. If it's a class, muting and unmuting, utilizing chat, changing their view, okay? Changing your view can change where things are situated on the screen. You can teach them how to annotate. You can teach them how to share their screen. And these next kind of slides are ones that I will share out to the group that attended here later, that you can use to share and show your students how to do things. So if you want to change your name, you click on participants, hover over your name and click more, and then click rename, and you can change your name. Okay. So when I'm trying to help students, it's helpful for them to have a visual. So these slides will be available so that you can explicitly teach how to do these things. Here is mute and unmute. Okay, if you have a big class, multiple participants, you can show them what it looks like. Okay, if it's white, there's no line through it, it means we can hear you. If it's red and there's a line through it, we can't hear you. Okay. You can teach students explicitly how to use chat. You can tell them we use chat to type a message. and we're showing them where it is on their screens with these images. Then you tell them, click on the chat and type a message to everyone. Okay. And like we did in this workshop, then have them try it. Okay, now you click on the Zoom chat box and type a message to everyone and press enter. Okay, so don't forget that last step of pressing enter that may not be obvious to all users. Zoom view. Okay, so at the top of your screen, usually it's at the top of your screen, there's a view kind of button, and it has a little grid there. And you can choose to see just the speaker. You can choose to see everyone in a big gallery. You can choose to see a full screen where it takes over your whole computer and you don't see your other applications. And here to explicitly tell a student how to share their screen. To allow other participants to share their screen, first you need to double check your settings. This is actually one setting you can do on the fly while you're teaching. Next to the share screen button, there's a little arrow. You can check it out on your device right now, and you should be able to see advanced sharing options. Now, I'm not sure if this is only for the host or if you'll be able to see this too. I can see it right now, and this is what I see. Okay. I click on the advanced sharing options, and then I check that only one person can share at a time, and all participants can share, but only the host can override someone else's sharing. So after you check the advanced sharing settings, you're ready to help your participants share their screen. The following slides can be shown during a Zoom meeting to assist your students. Okay, so here you're just telling them what it is. Sorry, my fingers are very happy. So here we're just telling them what screen share does. Allows you to show something from your computer to other people in a meeting. Before you share, you should open your document, website, video, or picture that you want to share. Okay, so first you have to have something open that you want to share. If you're sharing the video or music, you need to share the sound from your computer as well. Okay, so our first step, click on share screen. It's usually at the bottom, but in some cases you might have a menu at the top depending on your device. It's usually green. Okay, click on that button, and then that pop-up window shows you your options for sharing. You can share your whole screen, you can share the whiteboard, you can share particular documents. Again, you can have to check that share sound button. And here's a bigger picture of what it looks like. Once you decide what you're sharing, you click on that blue share button in the bottom right corner. And okay, so those are just some slides you can use to share with your participant, your student, so that they can learn how to use these functions as well. Annotation, these are, I don't know what happened here. Okay, so the annotate feature is that little pencil looking thing. On my computer, this is where it is, but on your computers, it was at the top, and there was like an option thing that you had to click, and then you could see the annotate. Yep. I'll try to find an image of that, and I'll put it into this presentation so that if you want to use these slides with your students, you'll have that available. And then here's that slide that shows the different features and what you can do with the annotation. Okay, any questions for me or any comments?
It's very worthwhile.
All right, good, I'm happy. So yes, so this recording will be made available, and this PowerPoint will be made available as well, and along with those slides that you can use if you would like to help your students on using these functions. All right, that's all I have. So thank you so much for spending a little bit of your evening with me. And thank you again for all you do for our students. And I hope to see you again at a future Tutor Talk.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Have a good
Bye,
night.
everyone.